Hi BookTube. So it's a beautiful day. I decided to film outside, mostly because my light's flickering in there and it's causing some lighting issues. But yeah, it's one the last nice days probably for the year, and I thought I'd do a Friday reads. I started and finished it and some thoughts on books. This might be a long video because I haven't been filming a lot. I'm just doing this on my phone because I'm in the middle of moving, so everything's a little chaotic inside. Yeah, so I'm just gonna start. I've been listening to the Wayward Children series. I had already read the first one, Every Heart or Doorway, and I loved it on ebook. So I listened to it on audiobook just to kind of refresh things because it's been a while. And I immediately stepped into Down Among the Sticks and Bones, the Jack and Jill story, so them going to their world. And that was really interesting. A lot of commentary on like parenting and stuff like that, which was interesting. Yeah, and I'm really I kind of want to skip ahead to, because I looked at the descriptions. I have all the audiobooks, and I looked ahead at the descriptions, and Jack and Jill are featured again in another book, and I kind of just want to jump right to that one. But we'll see. I don't know if you can. Yeah, so I finished those two. I also finished this one right here. My Father's Ghost is Climbing in the Rain by Patrizio Pran, and he's an Argentinian author. I don't know if you can hear that bell. There's a school a few streets over, and it reminds me of the TTC subway. Every time it goes off, I want to say, University Station, now arriving at University Station. Anyways, probably can't hear the bell and you think I'm crazy. This is an interesting novel. It's a little experimental. His father is in the hospital, and he ends up going through some of his father's things and finds this file. It doesn't really look like it right here, but there's articles, descriptions of pictures, and at one point he goes and watches a video, and it's about a missing man. People believe he's murdered, and the author's father's linked to that. And he says in the end that this is while the events in this book are mostly true, some are the result of the demands of fiction, whose rules are different from the rules of such genres as testimony or autobiography. For that reason, and he goes on, and then he actually has a website here where he tells, his readers to go to that has his father's opinions on the book. So it's a really interesting read because, again, I was thinking, like, is this real? But it isn't. Yeah, really good. If you're interested at all in, like, the various dictatorships and the disappearances that occur in Latin America, this is a very fitting book for that. Definitely an interesting read. And then after finishing that, I picked up this book, Sandino's Daughters, Testimonies of Nicaraguan Women in Struggle by Yanez. It's interesting because one of the disappearances that Patricio is investigating in here is a disappearance by a dictatorship. If you didn't know, in Latin America, there's the disappeared. It happened in a lot of places, where the government would take people that were opposing them and just make them disappear, i.e. murder them and hide the body. So that happened in 1977 or 1979, and this is about Nicaragua in the same era, after after overthrowing the Somoza dictatorship. And so Margaret Randall, she's a Canadian actually, she interviewed a bunch of women who were involved in the Sandinista, not the Sandinista revolution because it was post-Sandinista. It's a bit confusing. Nicaragua is full of revolutions and stuff. I read the introduction and the preface, so I'm only 8 pages into the interviews now. But it's interesting talking about how women became involved in revolution and why they became involved. It's really quite cool. I really like this part. I'm gonna read this. While the Spanish Catholic tradition preached of women in the home, passive, dependent, and ornamental, the world around them demanded something else. History forced them to assume positions and make decisions which, along with their economic activity, increased their social and political involvement. So Nicaragua has a dear place in my heart, and I'm really interested to read more. I did an essay, and I used bits and pieces of this in that essay in university, but now I'm excited to actually go through and read the whole thing. Let's see what else we have here to start on the top. Endymion by Dan Simmons. This is the third book in the Hyperion cycle. And in this one, we go forward in time almost 300 years. And things are completely different, including the narrator. But we do follow a character that we meet at the end of the fall of Hyperion. Let's just not give away spoilers there. This is unfortunately not as good as Hyperion. It's a lot of cat and mouse, which I really don't like, where it's like you are about to get captured but you escape, but then you're about to get captured again but you escape, and you're about to get captured. I'm just like, can we do something different, please? So it is a little slow going. I'm hesitant to pick it up also because it's a little hefty there. But yeah, I want to read it just to see if it does pick up and have that philosophical element that I loved in Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion. I'm also reading The Age of Shiva by Manil Suri, and this is a really I love Manil Suri. I've only read one book by him, and that was The Death of Vishnu, which was really good. And these is kind of like I don't know if he calls it a series, but he wrote about 3 different gods, but as human people. And so in this one, we're following this woman who is stuck between tradition and modernism in it's the 1960s or 1950s. Like she remembered escaping during partition, but now she's 18. So math, do it yourself. Partition was in 47. And that led her to getting married at a young age, and certain things happening, being torn between what would make her her own person, but without following her very traditional husband's family, and without following her very modern father herself, trying to establish a balance. It's really quite good. I always enjoy Manil Suri's books. This book is super interesting. This is Letter Perfect by David Sachs. It is history of the alphabet, and he goes letter by letter. And there's some repetition, but most times it's pretty cool. One thing that I really enjoyed learning and would like to see happen in English. It talks a lot about the innovation and the purposeful innovation of language. And it feels like we are stuck, and things have to happen organically now as opposed to purposefully. But I think it would be really cool if, like, in ancient Greece, they would have, I'm just going to, open a random page. It doesn't matter. They would read this line, and then they go down and they'd read this way. So they'd read left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left. And I was just like, that would be, so much easier to just go, do, 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 instead of, do, 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 there's some really cool things. When I have these big things sticking out, it means there's a passage. Oh, okay, no, that's not really. It's the frequency of letters in the alphabet and how often they're used in words. So this is about the letter E, which is the most commonly used letter. There's lots of interesting things in here, including the actual evolution of letters. So there we have the first ever marking that we would call an A, but it's called Aleph. And that is, it's Semitic, but also Greek. It was this kind of amalgamation of things. And then our lowercase letters are because transcribers wanted to write faster. Our lowercase b shape emerged around 500 in the Latin ink handwriting style known as semi-unical. scribes began omitting B's upper lute for the sake of speed, and they wanted to write faster. So, just under 1,000 years later, early European type designers would adapt this tradition pen shape to be their print B lowercase. So there's the evolution of the letter B. Yeah, and it's talking about all the different sounds. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm just like making the sounds in my mouth. And it's interesting because one of the things that distinguish vowels from consonants, I don't know if you care, I just wanted to share this information because I found it's cool. One of the things that distinguish vowels from consonants is that consonants need a vowel in order for us to say them. So like B needs that EE at the end, or C needs an EE at the end. Whereas vowels are just stand on their own. They're A, B, A, E, I, O, U, right? You don't need to add extra sounds onto them to be able to say them. This also has to do with the way your mouth and your throat and your nasal cavity all form when you say the words. And another interesting thing that I kind of knew but I never really thought about is how the same letters mean different sounds for different languages and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. This one's slow going. This is I'm reading a lot of books at once. This is what happens. I want to start reading something and I'm just like, well, just do it. So this is the Divine Comedy. I'm still in hell. Metaphorically reading this. It's easy to read the words and to get what's going on, but what this really seems to be is like a lot of contemporary to Dante commentary. So like a lot of the people he meets in hell are like people that he knows. And I'm just like, is this supposed to be like mean? Like, are you saying like your actions landed you in hell? Oh, there's some mushrooms on the floor. Sorry. I guess all the dampness has there's mushrooms growing on our lawn. I'll show you, maybe. So it's mostly just like gossip, and I don't know these people, and he doesn't really fully explain why they're there. They just happen to be there, and he's just like, oh yeah, and they're just like, oh yeah, watch out for the emperor, or this pope's in hell, and I'm just like, okay. I'm like, hope you're not getting yourself in trouble there, dude. I literally just started this last night. I'm 25 pages in. This is Firebird by Mercedes Lackey. I was afraid it was going to be like YA. It's not YA. It's pre-Tsarist Russia. And it's not magical yet, but we hear a lot about the spirits, but they're more just like a religion at this point as opposed to anything tangible, but it seems like things are going to get tangible maybe. Yeah, and we follow this one guy named Ilya, and his father's like calls himself a czar because he's the biggest like landowner and the toughest guy in the neighborhood, but he's not like the leader of Russia. So that's interesting. I think it says here they call themselves czars. Tsar Ivan actually ruled a little more land than most. Tsar, he's only a boyar, but he calls himself a czar to prove he's stronger and more important than his neighbors. Then what do his neighbors do? They call themselves czars. Tsar Ivan actually ruled a little more land than the other neighboring czars. And it talks about marriages and stuff like that. There's that one too. I don't have much to say because, as I said, I'm only 25 pages in. I was worried it was going to be YA or middle grade, but I'm surprised. Pleasantly surprised it's not. And lastly, I am enjoying this. This is The Beetle by Richard Marsh. It's not nearly as scary as I was expecting it to be, but there was a few scenes, towards the end part here, that were actually scary. The first two parts it's divided into 4 parts. So the first 2 parts are when a recently homeless man gets hypnotized into committing a crime, and they're building up to be scary. And the second one is this buffoon, but I really did not like him, but he's like super intelligent and invents all these things, and he comes across this worshiper of Isis, and things start to get more established. But then finally in the 3rd book we get the perspective of a lady, and I always forget her first, Marjorie Linden, And the scenes where she encounters this worshiper of Isis and the Beetle are actually scary. And then it ends on a cliffhanger in her section, and then jumps to Paul Lessingham, who this worshiper is after, for some reason. And we're going to see why. And I want to just pick it up and read it all the time. I think that's all I'm currently reading at the moment. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books. I might back off a little on this, because the effort versus the reward isn't really worth it. I thought it'd be a lot more descriptive of hell, instead of saying like, hey, I know you, you're a politician. Hey, I know you, you're a priest. And I'm just like, can you tell me exactly why they're in hell? Because that is all in the additional information. He's just kind of like, yeah, this person, you should know them and why they're here. And now they're talking to me about my father, and I'm just like, I don't care. I just wanted descriptions of hell. That's all I wanted from this. Yeah. So that's it. My next audiobook, I'll be continuing on with the Wayward Children's series. Yeah, and I'm gonna show you the mushrooms. Let me just pick something off the floor here that should be out here. Oh, that's me. Turn around. How do we turn? There's my tiny garden and giant weeds. But look, we got little mushrooms. I don't know, I just find them really fascinating. Cool. Okay, let me know what you are reading, and thank you for watching.